At this time, we're going to ask each and every one of you to please make sure your cell phones are turned off unless you plan on using your cell phone because you will be participating in the service. Speaking about participating in the service, anybody that is called upon to speak, and please, when you come up to the microphone, please be very careful. Use the handrail going up and use the handrail coming down. Once again, we don't want anybody to trip and fall. Also, you're certainly welcome to take your masks off when you're up here at the microphone speaking. And so at this time, I'd like to welcome all of you. Thank you for being here to honor the memory and celebrate the life of both Miriam and her beloved husband, Hyman Behar, whose services will be conducted by Rose Papo Allen and also Rabbi Nisim El-Nakabe. So at this time, I invite Rose to the microphone.
Buerum, bienvenidos, shalom. Welcome. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Rose Papo Allen. I'm president of the Sephardi Federation of Palm Beach County, and we're very privileged today to be presenting this traditional Sephardic Memorial Service in Meldado for Miriam Nahmias Behar, and we'll also be remembering her husband. We called him Hal Behar. I wanted to welcome the board members of the Sephardi Federation that are here with us today, members of the family, friends, and certainly everyone who's joining us through streaming. I want to give our appreciation to Reuben Memorial Chapel for providing that service for us and allowing more people to share in this service. I also especially want to thank Diane Mortensen for arranging the service for us, for Robert Altabet for organizing the service, the content of the service, and for Rabbi Nisim El-Nakabe for helping us to officiate. The Sephardi Federation of Palm Beach County was created in 1992 as in memory of the 500-year anniversary of the expulsion of Jews from Spain. And Miriam and Hal were among our very first paid members when we actually incorporated and started our membership programming in January 1993. And they were steadfast donors of the organization, and that's why it's so important to us to take this time to say our final farewells to Miriam, to honor her legacy, to thank her for all of her contributions to our organization. Miriam and Hal loved the Sephardi Federation. They joined immediately. They were a vibrant couple. They were very involved, even joining in on the storytelling troupe, Los Pregoneros, that we created, and they did everything. And it was, Miriam had a difficult life, those of you who knew her. She went through many travails, starting right off the bat, growing up in abject poverty. And so, really, she had true happiness with Hal. They were a loving couple, and they showed it. And when he passed, she really, it was a big blow to her. And she kind of retreated, and so we didn't see her for a long time. But she was steadfast in her membership, always as not only a contributor, but as a donor. And after several years, when she finally started to heal from that, she came out and she decided that she was going to get really involved with our organization, that she was going to dedicate herself to our mission. And she did just that. She joined our board. She became the secretary. She became the chairman of our membership committee and grew that. She took it over from Rosina Caraco, rest in peace. And she was really the first person, the first voice that many people met when they first joined the organization. And most of the messages that we've received from people on her behalf were about how kind she was and how welcoming she was and how sweet she was. And all of that was very true. And she was just full of life. You can see from these pictures. She just threw herself into our organization. And she really was a significant figure in the development of the Sephardi Federation. She helped, some of the contributions was that she actually helped shepherd the beginning of our Viva Ladino class, which is one of the mainstay services that we provide. She also was a very important supporter of Charla Shom, helping Esther Herskovitz, who took over from Betty Goldstein. And she was really the Charla Shom up until just recently. And most importantly, she had this wonderful idea, this concept of having a model Ladino Seder. And she worked at it and pulled together a compilation from many different versions. And over one summer, with two other best friends, also rest in peace, Ray Mishula and Jerry, they put together our first model Seder. And this year we'll be dedicating our Seder to Mir. So, I hope I can get through this. Miriam was really one of my strongest supporters on the board. She believed in me. She believed in the vision that I had for the organization, and she did everything she could to help me accomplish the things that I thought would be wonderful. Even underwriting some of the larger events. She was just always there, and she was so inspiring. She was a very, very inspiring personality, and I just will really miss her friendship, her advice, and her enthusiasm. And I'll tell you, that's one of the saddest parts of her illnesses and her later years was how she just became so reclusive, and we just really missed that enthusiasm. It would be hard to replace her for sure. So in 2019, we had started a new series where we were highlighting the personal stories, the family histories of some of our members, and presenting them as part of our visitas. And I was working with her on her story, which was fascinating. But unfortunately, we never got to present it because she just started feeling frail and self-conscious and just would never finally come out to do the program. So we never did get to present her story. And what I'd like to do now is share with you a portion of what we put together for her. And this is Miriam. Miriam's story. This is a true story of a mystery turned into a miracle. Miriam grew up in the Lower East Side of New York in a cold water flat. Her parents came to the U.S. in 1916 from Salonika, Greece, where her mother's father was Grand Rabbi Aaron Chaim. When they arrived, they brought along a very special package. It was covered in muslin, and Miriam's mother kept it on the top shelf in a closet with very strict instructions. Never, never touch this. Miriam remembered, even from the age of 3, being struck by this imperious command. And every day, Miriam opened that closet to take out the folding bed that she slept on and to put it away. And every day she looked upon that package with fear and awe. What was it? Why was it so taboo? But it frightened her. It seemed that to even look at it was forbidden. In time, Miriam left her parents to live with her brother in the Bronx. Her father passed away, and mother moved to Manhattan to live with Miriam's older sister. In time, her mother also passed away, and much later, after Miriam's sister died, her niece brought over a box with things that she said were left to Miriam. In the box was the package, and her mother's voice rang out in her head, "Never touch it, never." The package was still exactly as it had been when it first arrived in 1916, tightly wrapped in a now fading muslin. Still mysterious, still forbidding. No one had yet opened it, and neither would Miriam. Yet she wondered, what could it be? What was so precious to be kept and passed on for over 80 years? But she shuddered and heeded her mother's voice and kept it as it was, unopened, even as she traveled through life, eventually out of New York and on to Florida for another 2 decades. Then, out of the blue, a few years ago, our organization attracted a new member, Judith Kaplan. Judith's family was involved in establishing a Chabad synagogue in Salonika, now called Thessaloniki. Judith's son was the rabbi, and their mission was to revive Jewish life and the Sephardic community in Thessaloniki, which had been totally decimated by the Holocaust. Of 60,000 Jews, only 1,200 survived. The murdered included members of Miriam's family. After meeting Judith, something stirred in Miriam, and she thought of the mysterious package. She didn't have anyone to pass on the mysterious legacy, whatever it was. Perhaps it was time to finally find out. She invited Judith over, and with encouragement, overcame her childhood fears. Together, they opened the old battered box and carefully untied the aged muslin covering. Trembling, Miriam unfolded a beautiful piece of material. Vibrant colors swirled against a burgundy background. It was edged in gold and backed with pure cotton. They spread it out and saw that it was the wrong size and shape for a bedspread. One look between them, and they knew. It was for a bima, a sacred cloth to cradle a holy Torah that had probably come from her grandfather's kahal, his synagogue. They knew what had to be done. It had to go back. And so it did. Judith lovingly carried the precious package, no longer a mystery. First, like a long-lost mystic, to Jerusalem, where her son was getting married. Then the son brought it home to Thessaloniki, and now it finally graces again a Jewish bima. After 100 years after it left in secrecy. A year later, Miriam's grandniece, Sandra, great-great-granddaughter of the Grand Rabbi Aaron Chaim, visited the new congregation named after him, Eitz Chaim, to be a witness to the cloth's return, a mystery that turned into a miracle. You know, Miriam had a beautiful voice. She should have been a cantor. I don't have that great of a voice, but I do want to share with you a traditional lullaby for Miriam. Dorme, dorme, hermosa donzella. Dorme, dorme, sin ansia dolor. Dorme, dorme, sin ansia dolor. Siente joya el son de mi guitarra. Ver tu sueño con grande amor. Ver tu sueño con grande amor. Será tus luzias ojos. Dorme, dorme, con paz, con Dorme, dorme, con paz, con sabor. Now we'll listen to any comments that anyone wants to share from friends and relatives. And the first person I'll ask to join us is Diane Mortensen. Diane is treasurer of the Sephardi Federation on our board for many years, and also became a very dear personal friend of Miriam, and has much to share.
How did I meet Miriam? I remember it well. It was the summer of 2013. I saw in the local newspaper that the Sephardic Federation of Palm Beach County was showing a series of 3 documentaries on the Sephardim at the library. The first one was called The Last Sephardic, about Eliezer Papo, who had left Sarajevo for Israel. He spoke about the expulsion from Spain and Portugal, and about Ladino, or Judeo-Español, or Nuestro Español, as it was called, the language of the Sephardim. At the end of the summer, I called the membership chairperson, a certain Miriam Behar. It seemed that, among other things, they were offering classes in Ladino, Viva Ladino. I called her and I told her, I'm not Sephardic, I don't speak Ladino, I did study Spanish, but I'm not very good at it. Is this class anything for me? And she said, I don't know. Try it. Maybe you like it. Well, that was the rest is history. After 2 or 3 years as a student in the class, which I loved, I became the teacher by default, which I didn't love. A truly frightening experience for someone who doesn't really speak the language that she's teaching. Since that time, I relied on Miriam for her translations, for her insights into the language and culture, but mostly for her emotional support and confidence building, which I desperately needed. How I miss that now. A few days ago, I came across a saying that describes in one sentence our Miriam. Mazaloso el que da sin nada demandar. Fortunate or lucky is the one who gives without asking for anything. Giving, the concept of tzedakah, charity, was ingrained in Miriam. Throughout her lifetime, she donated to so many organizations, to Jewish causes, to Sephardic institutions, to veterans groups, to medical research and treatment centers, and the like. And now, never fear, as a living tribute and as a loving memory, many of these donations will continue after her passing as well. You will be missed and you will be remembered. Our dear Miriam Nahmias Behar.
Thank you, Diane. Indeed. Adio. We do have members of the family here. These are relatives of Hal's family, Hal's brother's granddaughter, and Esther Ferguson, and Hal's brother's great-granddaughter, right? Lisa, right? I don't know if any of you want to speak, or is there anyone else who wants to come up and share any personal messages? Okay, Merti, come on up. Be sure to introduce yourself, Merti.
Hi, my name is Murti. I'm one of the few caregivers for Miriam the past few years. I first met Miriam about 3 years ago at a luncheon, a ladies' club luncheon in our community clubhouse. And we had good conversations there. At the end of the lunch, she needed a ride home, and I offered to give her a ride home. For some reason, we clicked from day one, and we were able to talk about anything. And I didn't have much family here. She didn't really have a close family here as well, so we kind of bonded together. So a few months later, Miriam asked me if I could help her around the house, and I happily said yes. So I have been with Miriam pretty much most every day since then, except when I go travel. So Miriam had a gentle and generous soul, always ready to help others when needed. Like I said, we could speak about anything and everything, and we're always mindful to respect the differences in our cultures and our personalities. It did not take much to keep Miriam happy, and she was always appreciative of everything I or anybody else did for her. I wore many hats while I was working for Miriam. I was the driver, the cook, the gardener, but mostly just being her friend. She always also encouraged me in all the projects that I like to do. Photography, macrame, all the good things that I enjoy doing. Miriam was very quick with her praises, but at the same time, she had no trouble to let me know if she did not agree with something I did or say, but it wasn't very often. When it was possible, she also loved to walk outside and listen to the birds singing, as well as chatting with the neighbors nearby and receiving hugs from them. Miriam did not like thunders and storms, but she loved the beautiful rainbows that presented afterwards. I also took her to see a beautiful sunset at Loxahatchee on her birthday, and she was very happy to do that, as it's been a while since she saw one. It was a great day when, during a visit pre-COVID times, her great niece Diana and her husband Greg, I believe, got her a record player because Miriam so enjoyed listening to the big collection of music that she had. She had a whole closet of records from the 50s and 60s. She loved to sing and she loved to dance. And we had to be careful because we had to hold onto the walker at the end. She wanted to take her hands up. But she had a beautiful voice and she sang like an angel. We had many sing-along sessions with another friend, close friend, Felipe. So I feel that I've learned a lot from Miriam, and I feel privileged and grateful to have known Miriam, and will cherish all the good memories that we had, and I will miss her. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. The one thing that Marty didn't mention is how she became our de facto membership chair, because Miriam never gave up. You know, she was reluctant about being seen and coming out, but she never for 1 minute gave up her love of our organization and the feeling of duty to the tasks that she had taken on, and all the computer work, working with our membership lists and everything. Marty ended up taking over, and we really appreciated your help during those years. And it really meant a lot to Miriam, too, that with your help she was able to stay involved. Is there anyone else that would like to share anything? Thinking about it? Otherwise, at this time, I'm going to call up Robert Altebet, who's going to tell us more about the significance of the Meldado service and get us started on that portion of the program. Bob is our vice president and our handyman in all things technical, and it's really been a privilege working with him the past 2 years.
Before I talk about the rest of what's going on and what a Meldado is, I just wanted to say a few words about Miriam and my relationship with her. I first spoke to her, must be about 4 years ago. Friends of ours who were members told her, as the membership person, to call us, thinking that we would be interested in joining the Sephardi Federation. And so I got a call from Miriam, someone I had never known before, and it was just such a delightful call. If I were not Sephardic and not interested in any of this, her welcoming attitude would have had to make me think about whether to join. I next got involved with her as we were doing programs, and we got to talking about recipes. And we compared the way we each did things growing up, and the most interesting one was making buñuelos de Hanukkah. So this is a deep-fried bit of dough, and for my family, that's it. It was a big fry pan, and you just dropped it in, and everything had different shapes. Miriam was trying to come up with what she called the buñuelo pan, in which you would fry it, but it went into these little cupcake-like compartments so that everything would tend to look the same. I had never heard of such a thing. I've since discovered that about half of the Sephardic world does it one way, hers, and the other half does it my way. But it was a very interesting discussion, and we developed a relationship. My next involvement with her was as we were planning a program for Las Frutas, Tu B'Shvat, which is what the Ashkenazi would call it, but the holiday of the fruits, the 15th day of Shabbat. And we were talking about how to put this together and what kind of interesting songs we could sing. Because it's special for trees, she suggested some Ladino songs that we sing. From that, I learned that her favorite Ladino song, which I'm going to sing in a few minutes, is Árboles lloran por lluvia. The trees cry for rain, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. I also got to talk to her about music and discovered how much she knew of the Hebrew liturgy in a Sephardic service and her ability to chant all of it. Probably the most knowledgeable person, non-rabbi, that I ever met on the subject. If she had lived in a different era or had been a man, she would undoubtedly have been a chazan, a cantor. I was just talking with June Ellen and said we should have recorded her, and I never thought about it. I wish I had, because it would have been delightful to have gotten some of that recorded. We're going to be doing our Meldado. Meldado is the Ladino word, and it's essentially a memorial program, but it really also means that it's a learning program. Traditional Jewish programs amongst Sephardim and Ashkenazim involve a little bit of learning, and then some psalms, and then you move on to memorial prayers and Kaddish. And we have our own format for this, but I'm going to do a little bit of teaching that is focused on that song. After that, Rabbi Nisim will lead us in Psalm 23, which is a traditional memorial psalm, and you'll get a little bit of Ladino as well as Hebrew from him. And then we're going to do something called Psalm 119, which is arranged as an alphabetic acrostic, and we're going to recite some verses that spell out her name, and therefore announce that she's on her way to the world to come. And then Rabbi Nisim will finish up with Hashkava, and anybody that wants to say Kaddish will be able to do that. And I am not as good a singer as her. The last time I did this song, it was with her at my side, which really helped, but I'm going to try and sing it. You've got the words on the handout sheets, and that's true for you folks that are watching the remote video as well, and you certainly can sing with me. If you're comfortable singing along, go ahead, and if you're less comfortable, at least try and join me for the refrain, which is in the bold type. All right, and for those that just want to know what it means, you're going to see the translation. Let me just tell you a little bit about this song. You will see that it says, I turn and ask, what will become of me in a faraway land? That one's particularly interesting because it actually echoes something that's in Psalm 137. Let me just find my little note here. That's typically associated with Tish B'Av, but it talks about the exile to Babylonia. And it says, for there our captors requested a song, our tormentors demanded songs of joy. Sing us a song of Zion. How can we sing a song of the Lord in a foreign land? But we did. And the fact that we were able to is what kept Judaism alive. The next famous incident when this Arvoles Porluvia was done, and during the period probably within 50 years of when it was originally written, was the exile from Spain. And the exiles, as they boarded the boats, nobody there to record it, so who knows, but it is said that they sang this song as they left Spain. With that, I turn and ask, what will become of me? In a faraway land I shall die. And we know that Miriam was from Salonika. And you just heard a little bit from Rose about how many Jews perished in the Holocaust from Salonika. A greater percentage of Jews from Greece and Salonika perished in the Holocaust than any other country in all of Europe. But when they were going to the camps, they sang this song to the dismay of their captors, who couldn't understand how people could sing a song as they were being led away. And it truly upset them, and the people from Salonika kept singing. Arvoles lloran poluvias y montañas por aires, ansí lloran los mis ojos por ti, querido amante. Turno y digo, ¿qué va a ser de mí? En tierras ajenas yo me voy a morir. Blanca sos, blanca vistes, blanca la tu figura, blancas flores caen de ti, de la tu hermosura. Torno y digo, ¿qué va a ser de mí? En tierras ajenas yo me voy a morir. Enfrente de mí hay un ángelo, con tus ojos me mira. Lloran quiero y no puedo, mi corazón suspira. Torno y digo, ¿qué va a ser de mí? En tierras ajenas yo me voy a morir. With that, we're going to listen to Rabbi Nassim in Psalm 23. Thank you.
Thank you, Prophet Behar. This is so incredibly meaningful. And the Ladino that we're going to read right now, as Bob tells me, was translated by a dear friend, a Hacham, a professor also, Eliezer Papo. And so we're going to use this translation for the for the Psalm 23. And first we're going to read the Hebrew. For those that can, it's on the left side of the text. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai ro'i lo ehsar, binot deshe yarbiseni, al me menuchot yinahaleni, nafshi shovev ינחני במעגלי צדק למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגשר מוות, לא ירא כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוק לפני שולחן נגד צוררי, דשנת בשמן ראשי כוסי רוויה. אך טוב החסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. Adonai es mi pastor, no tendré falta. En pastos del mullo me hace yacer, junto a aguas de reposo me guía. Conforta mi alma, me guía en senderos de justidad por amor de su nombre. Aunque andé en el valle de sombra de muerte, no temeré de mal, porque tú estás conmigo. Tu vara y tu verga, ellas me confortan. Ordenas mesa delante de mí, en presencia de mis angustiadores. Untas con aceite mi cabeza, mi vaso se revierte. Ciertamente bien y merced me seguirán todos los días de mi vida, y reposaré en la casa de Adonai por longura de días. A Psalm of David, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in the straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely, goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. We'd like to ask now Bob Altabed to continue with the Sephardic service the way it's done.
We've kept this a little bit shorter than it might be, so we've only picked selected verses from this psalm. There's actually, this entire psalm has 8 verses for each of the letters of the alphabet, and what we do is we spell out someone's name. We've picked out only one verse, which I'll do in Hebrew, and then in English, and at least the way I'm used to it, I will call out the letter of the name, and this is Miriam, so it's Mem, Resh, Yud, Mem. I hope I can read this. Mem. Magim letzuhulehiki emratah midvar livi. How sweet are your words unto my palate, yea, sweeter than honey to my mouth. Rachamecha rabim Adonai, kemisha patachcha hayeni. Great are your compassions, O Lord, quicken me as you will. Yud. Yehi nahastika lenachamini, le'im ratecha li'ahavracha. Let, I pray you, your loving kindness be ready to comfort me according to your promise to your servant. Mem. Mepikudarcha edvonan, al ken shenatihi kol orach. From your precepts I get understanding, therefore I hate every false way. With that, Rabbi Nisim is going to do Ashkava. For those that are not familiar with Sephardi practice, this is the equivalent of the Ashkenazi El Malei Rachamim, and it's another form of a memorial prayer, and Ashkava actually means lying down.
We're kindly going to ask from everyone to please kindly rise for the Ashkava. אשת חיל ממצא ורחוק מפני מכרה, תנו לה מפר ידיה ויעללו אשר מעשיה, רחמנה דרחמנותה דילי, אשת העיר מרת מרים בת אברהם ופלום בה בחר רוח אדוני תניחנה בגן עדן המלך ברחמיו ירחם עליה המלך ברחמיו ירחם ולעבריה שלום ועל משכביה שלום כדכתיב יבוא שלום ינו כל משכבותם הולך נכוחו וכל בנות ישראל השוכבות עמה בכלל הרחמים והסליחות וכן יהי רצון ונאמר אמן. A woman of valor who can find. Her value is far above jewels, charm is deceitful, and beauty is vain. A woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her the fruit of her hands. Her own deeds will praise her in the gates. Merciful one, that the mercy is his. One who created the worlds by his utterance, this world and the world to come, to conceal there the righteous and the devout, that do his bidding, as per his instructions, for his glory and might. May be recalled before him the soul of the honor and modest woman and respected lady, Miriam, Bat Abraham, and Palomba Behar. May the Spirit of the Lord give her rest in paradise, because she left this world according to the will of God, Master of heaven and earth. May the King, in his mercy, have pity and mercy upon her. May peace be with her, and on her resting place will be peace. As it is written, peace will come, they will rest on their beds, everyone who walks in his righteousness. Send she and all her daughters of Israel, who slumber with her, are included in mercy and forgiveness, and so may it be, and let's say to it, Amen. So at this point, for those that would like to join us, we're going to recite the Kaddish, which is on the bottom section of that same page. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ועלמה דיברה כרעותה וימליך מלכותה וישמח פורקנה ויקרב משיחה וחי יכון וביום יכון וחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם, ויתנשא ויתהדר, ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו. לאלה מן כל ברכתה, שירתה, תושבחתה, ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה, ואמרו אמן. על ישראל, ועל רבנן, ועל תלמידיהון, ועל כל תלמידיהון, דעסקין באורייתא קדישתא, די באתרא הדן, בדי בכל אתר ואתר. ילנה ולהון, הינה והזדה ורחמה, מן קודם מראה שמיה וראה, ואמרו אמן. יהא שלמה רבה מן שמיה, חיים ושבע, וישועה ונחמה ושזבה, ורפואה וגאולה, וסליחה וכפרה, ורווח והצלה לנו, ולכל עמו ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו וברחמיו, יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל, ואמרו אמן. You can all have a seat. And just, I'd like to add a blessing to the members of the Sephardic Federation because of what you've done today, and all of the friends, the family and friends that are here. It's so incredibly meaningful that you come together for this memorial service and the work that was done to put it together. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the God Almighty, send you many blessings and be successful and help us in promoting her memory and keep her memory alive amongst us. And we can talk about her the way you spoke about her today. I didn't have the chance to meet her, but through you, who are the friends who are, I was able to get a little glimpse about this beautiful woman. Tiene Afshad Serura Bitzora Haim, como decimos, que su alma descanse en Gan Eden, en la paz eterna. Amén.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. Yes, I was just going to say that if there is still anybody who wants to speak, come up. Judith, did you want to come say? Come. This is Judith Kaplan. You missed us telling the story of Bima, and it's her son that.
So, hello, friends. I'm Judith Kaplan, and I used to be very involved until I had to move. And it's very Saloniki or Sephardic type of thing because I had sorot. Does anyone know what sorot are? Troubles, you know? So I had to move, and like we see the Jews and now in Ukraine, the moving. And I was just being evicted a month or two ago, and I was walking along the beach, and I was thinking, thank God, I really now understand what my Sephardic brethren have gone through over the centuries, that feeling of being torn from your home. And it was really, I wasn't evicted in the end, but I think I was put through it to appreciate that. So I just prepared a little something. Miriam was a good friend. I'm the mother of 2 rabbis in Saloniki.
Of 10 children.
Oh, by the way, yeah. But 2 of my sons are rabbis in Saloniki, and Miriam was from Saloniki, and she used to tell me that she remembered seeing the White Tower from her window. So she became very close. She loved my sons, and one of my sons actually wanted to come today from Saloniki. And I told him, really, I didn't want to fly. I hate my children to fly. It's so dangerous. But, I said, you don't have to come. But he's here in spirit. And she donated, as you heard, the beautiful Bima cover, which is used for every Torah reading in Saloniki now. Years ago, Miriam also donated $5,000. It was a few years ago for a Tree of Life. And with the pandemic and everything, it got postponed. But now it's being completed. It'll be Miriam's Tree of Life, and it'll be on the wall in Saloniki. So I'm glad that to say it'll be done during the year of mourning. And as you know, her pictures are being sent there also, and they'll either go in the synagogue or in the Jewish museum there. I'll let you help me decide, or them decide. In addition to the Tree of Life, we decided, because she's like a mother to us, like Saloniki is called La Madre de Israel, the mother of Israel. It was always called that. The Jews found haven there. And Miriam to us, maybe because I lost my mother a couple years before I met her, and I always felt like she's La Madre de, also like close to me as a mother, and La Madre de Balkan Jewish Communities, which is our organization in Saloniki. So one thing is my sons arranged that Kaddish be said for her in Saloniki for the whole year, and also at the Kotel. So it's being done right now. As soon as they found out, they organized that. Another thing is when my son heard the story of her wishes to have a Jewish burial, and they were so moved by it that my son Yossi had the idea to open up an organization. We'll call it Levayat Miriam, which means accompany Miriam. That's Levayat is when we accompany someone to their grave. And it will be like a hotline for Jews all over the world if they want to be sure that they will have a kosher burial, a Jewish burial, that they can contact. And the rabbis, we have international contact of rabbis all over the world that can work together with a funeral arrangement. We don't want to start arranging funerals, but to make sure that all the Jewish things are kept if a person wants that. Because Miriam didn't know how to take care of that. She was like, I think later in life she realized she wanted it, but she didn't know how to do it. So we're making a little organization like a hotline. And the last thing is what we call Levayat Miriam, and there's the website jewishburial.net. and we'll be publicizing that so people know about it. The last thing is Meldado, Miriam Loaz. So years ago, Miriam and I also wanted to start learning. When I had to move away, we started studying together, but it never worked out because neither of us were savvy enough with the online. But I'm going to start teaching in her name, Meldado, Miriam Loaz. We'll be learning Pirkei Avot. Miriam Loaz is one of the greatest works in Jewish literature, not only the Sephardic Jewish literature. It was originally written in Ladino and from Saloniki by Rabbi Cooney. And then we'll just give once a week a little online schmoozing, I would say in Yiddish, a little history, a little pasuk in Ladino from Pirkei Avot, and taking a little commentary from the great rabbis, something that we can go with inspiration, and that will give her name we say an aliyah to her name. So it's something I've wanted to do for years, and I feel bad that I've never done it, so I've decided to, even with all my tzarot, I'm going to go ahead and take upon myself to do that online, like on Zoom or something. So we'll have more news I'll let Rose know about when we start with that. I left some, if anybody is interested in that, I left my contact information and a printout of all these things if anybody wants. So that's just, we decided to put our love for her into action. Yes, okay, as I'm sure you all are doing.
Judith, those are all beautiful initiatives, and I know that she would really appreciate even all of them. And it's so interesting that you bring up the Miriam Loaz when Bob Altabed is actually doing a lecture on that whole story this coming Monday. Tomorrow. Tomorrow is Monday. Oh, how wonderful. Right. So, yeah, in our ancestors' footsteps, we continue, and we will continue always with Miriam in our hearts. And I know that she is resting in peace with Hal. They're at the VA together now, and they will be interred within the month. And I know that she's looking down on us and absolutely loving this whole service that we put together for her, because she so deserves the attention and the honor. And I'm just so proud of our organization for pulling it together for her. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Bob and Diane, Judith, family of Hal, and all friends who've shared with us today, remembering our dear Miriam. And with that, we'll say so long.
We'd like to call on Mr. Joe Rubin to please join us. Thank you.
This is Miriam Behar. I thank you very much, and I'll be in touch with you. Thank you very much. Goodbye.